Welcome once again. To start with, we'll be marking our pocket entry point, and that is 7 inches from the top. And I'll be making a half-inch notch on that 7 inches mark, and that will be where our slant will also start from. Now, to get where our slant will end, I'll be marking 3 inches on the top, and I would also be notching that part with a 1/4 inch notch. So the slant will start from that 7 inches mark and end on that 3 inches point. But for our slant to be perfect, after making these notches, I'll be using interface to cover that slant line. So I'll be doing that for both pieces of the trouser, because both pieces of the trouser would contain the slant. That's the right and the left part of the trouser. So I'll be using interface to cover that slant line like that, after which I'll be making use of my pressing iron to hold down that interface. So it doesn't really matter the kind of interface you want to use, just make sure it is something that will solidify your slant after it is done. I've made use of my pressing iron to hold down that interface on the fabric, and I'll be carefully separating both the right and the left piece of the front part of the trouser. Then I'll be cutting off the excesses of the interface on the top, and I will also be carefully cutting off the excesses of the interface on the side. And I'll be making sure while cutting that I'm not cutting off the fabric, because any cut on the fabric will actually affect the measurement we've already taken while we were cutting our trouser. So I'll be doing the same for the left part of the trouser, what I did for the right part. Now take note, you will notice that the interface was added diagonally on the slant line, and it has inevitably covered those initial notches we made. So I'll be re-notching those initial notches, and I'll be bending to the slant line. I have to bend to the slant line, create my slant line before I start the making process of the trouser pocket itself. So I will use my pressing iron to solidify that line. This brown piece is the pocket fabric we are using for the pocket, and I made use of the trouser fabric to create a pocket cover, and I placed that on the right side, and I'll be making stitches on the edge to hold it down. Then for the other part, I'll place it on the left part, and I will also make stitches on the edge to hold it down. Note that each of these pockets can only work for one part of the trouser. I'll place the trouser fabric on the pocket just for you to see what it should look like at the end of the process. So to start with, the pocket will be placed diagonally like that on the wrong face of the trouser fabric, from one top to the other tip like that, and you will make stitches on the edge of the pocket to hold down the pocket on the trouser. So this is the first stitch that holds the pocket to the trouser fabric. So after doing that, I'll make a half-inch notch. Now I haven't notched the pocket before, but I have notched the trouser fabric, so the same position I'll re-notch. Then I will make a tiny stitch on the center part of that slant like that, and that is just to hold the pocket and the trouser fabric together, so that when I'm making my stitch on the slant, everything is together. So to make my stitch on the slant, I'll fold like that, then I'll make my half-inch top stitch. That half-inch top stitch is what makes your pocket perfect when it is totally done. So I'll make that half-inch top stitch from the down line to the waistline like that. Now after making that half-inch top stitch, I'll be removing those tiny stitches I made on the center part just to hold both pieces together. Now there's an excess you see dangling there, so that excesses will be sewn on the pocket itself. So the excess of that black piece you see dangling, I'll be stitching down on the pocket. To do that, I'll open up the pocket like that, then I'll place it underneath and start stitching. So I'll stitch on the edge, and that is to hold those excesses down to your pocket. If you leave it, it will just become a problem inside your pocket, dangling there without any position. So you have to stitch it down. We are done with that excess. Now I'll be going straight to the working on the center line. So there is a center line on the pocket, and that is that gator line you see. So that gator line will determine how you fold your pocket. So from that gator line, I'll pick it upwards like that, then I'll make a 1/2 inch stitch on the down line, following the curve on the down line. So if your down line has no curve, you just make a straight 1/2 inch stitch, but if it does have a curve, you follow the curve, and that is what you see me doing. Now this process is because I don't want to make the downline in a way that I'll just join it and whip it. I don't want to use the weaving machine to do anything for now, so I'll just stitch it like that. After stitching it, I will now bring it outwards. So on bringing it outwards, I will now remake another top stitch. Everything you see me doing here is actually because I'll be using a lining to cover this part of the trouser, because this is actually a standard trouser, so you always use your linings to cover the pocket of the front. So I'll be making a top stitch on the edge, and that is why I have the liberty of using a black thread to sew brown pocket fabric. So if it were to be a situation where I wouldn't be covering with the lining, I would have to follow all the color code. We've concluded with the top stitching, and that means we've concluded in the making of the pocket. The only thing remaining now is to hold the pocket firmly to the trouser fabric, and that is stitching both together on the side and also on the top. So I'll arrange like that, then I'll make a stitch on the edge, stitching both the pocket and the trouser fabric on the edge to where the slant started from. So I'll stop there, then I'll go to the top, and I'll start the stitching on the edge as well from where the slant started from, and I'll stop at where the pocket ended on the top. On concluding this, you would realize that there would be some pocket fabric excesses on the top and also on the side. So I'll be cutting off those excesses, and after doing that, that will be the final work on making of our pockets using another fabric.